It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
And welcome into the Purple Daily live stream. Mackey out today. He, I believe, will be back, if I'm not mistaken, for sure for Ventline on Sunday, where we'll see Jaren Hall against Jordan Love as the Vikings try to cling on to their playoff lives and get some help. So today's Feedback Friday show is Judd and Declan, efforted by our guy Dex, who he and the Vince are working very hard late last night, going through your comments, making sure that only the best comments show up. But before we get to that, this show, obviously presenting sponsor, want to thank them, shout them out, and that's our friends at Quick Trip. Quick Trip, your one-stop shopping. So many things available. A month ago or so, a couple weeks back, I was talking about the quality gas guarantee. Talked about the Karuba coffee because I am a lover of a good cup of Java. And how about this? How about Nature's Touch milk? $2.99 a gallon, skim 1% and 2%. Made right in La Crosse at Quick Trip. They've got their own dairy facility, and it's, in their words, cow to store in 24. So that's right. So you know that the milk is as fresh as can be, perfect for large gatherings this time of year, or whip up a new adult beverage. Certainly, if you are a fan of cereal, there is nothing better than to get this great Quick Trip milk out and pour yourself a bowl of cereal or two. It's absolutely perfect. Quick Trip, again, your one-stop shopping, and also much appreciated that they are the presenting sponsor of Purple Daily. Without further ado, Declan Goff, I turn it over to you.
All right, let's get into some Feedback Friday. A lot of Jaren Hall comments, as you can probably imagine here. So we're going to have some great Jaren Hall conversation on Feedback Friday. And I'm actually looking at Underdog Fantasy right now, Judd. So they got some Jaren Hall props. And by the way, Purple Picks tomorrow as well. We'll have a little bit more of an insight on this. But right now, over-under passing yards at Underdog Fantasy with Jaren Hall, 216 passing yards. Can Jaren Hall get over 216? Do you want to put some money where your mouth is and stick it to some Packer fans? You go to Underdog Fantasy. New Year's, you get a promo match with promo code SCORE, SKOR. $100 deposit match as well. So go shout out our friends and check out our friends at Underdog Fantasy. All right, first comment here from our guy Corey. Corey says, how awesome would it be if Jaren Hall plays awesome, shows us what he's got, and we still lose out? Perfect. Does anyone think we can really make a run with a banged-up sideline? No Hawkinson, potentially no Addison. Turn the page, let it be. So Corey's saying Hall plays well, shows you enough. Vikings lose in the situations that drop them in the draft board. And then he says, actually, that is a win-win because you get a little bit of your sneak peek quarterback. You get better draft position. They're not going to make a run with these injuries piled up. That's Corey's, perfect picture in his world of how this could play out over the next 2 games.
It's interesting because I've seen some Vikes fans who are adamant that you're not a true Vikings fan. If you don't want this team to win, you're not a true fan. But yeah, I get it. I'm very curious to see 2 things. And our friend Kevin Seifert of ESPN right now on their website has an outstanding piece that I've been talking about, but in his way, he contextualized it probably far better than I have. And it's this: these next 2 games are going to also be somewhat of a referendum on Kevin O'Connell's willingness to adapt. I didn't realize this. Now, I know that the Vikings don't have a screen game, but Kevin said since Cousins went out, the Vikings have run a total of 9 screenplays, which is unbelievable. And this goes back to the 11 runs on Sunday in a close game. And O'Connell, I guess, has been pretty bullheaded about the fact that he doesn't think that he has asked either Joshua Dobbs or Mullins to do too much. Well, Jaren Hall's a kid. And if you're going to have him put him in and expect him to do what Cousins does, you ain't going to win and you're not going to help him. So I think that this is going to be incredibly interesting, not just from, 5th round pick Jaren Hall. Not can he start next season, but is there something there? That's a great question that hopefully the next 2 games, Dex, will help to answer. But beyond that, I also want to see if Kevin O'Connell is willing to adapt, adjust, and help his quarterback, as opposed to doing the Childress thing, which is to say, my system works, I can plug anyone in, and success be damned, you're going to do what I say.
Yeah, I'm trying to weigh a couple things. Number one, I know a lot of people think that we get way too sensitive when people criticize Kevin O'Connell, and I think this show has actually done a really good job at pointing out the flaws in Kevin O'Connell too. It's not like he's completely absolvent or gets off scotch-free because Kirk Cousins went down. He's done some really good things. He's also done some really puzzling things too. And when you have a rookie quarterback that you're going to have to start on Sunday, you don't have your tight end, who is obviously a security blanket for him. Who knows what the status of Addison and others are. So you have to come up with a pretty safe game plan here. And I'm curious too, what does that look like for him? And yeah, the abandoning of the run and the unsuccessfulness of the screen game, which, by the way, goes back to last year, which is something I've been harping on with you and Mackie, that just why the hell can they not execute this properly? We've talked to Boone about it too, and it's everything, right? It goes from the quarterback setting it up to the lineman getting in space to the running back having the juice. Like, it's definitely not as simple as throwing a screen pass and it works every time for 8 to 10 yards, but it is baffling to me that they just can't successfully execute any of those plays. Speaking of more comments on Kevin O'Connell, this one from Kevin, ironically enough, says KOC can't coach unless he has an entire offseason to come up with a plan. The Viking situation is not unique this year. We just don't game plan based on the quarterback that we have. You look at the Browns, right? They have now their fourth quarterback. Joe Flacco is having a hell of a season after sitting on his butt for the first 3 months of the year, and now the Browns are for sure in the playoffs. Kevin Stefanski there, their own Kevin, he's done a really good job with Cleveland, former Vikings coordinator and assistant coach. But Kevin, this listener, is saying that the Vikings coach, Kevin O'Connell, can't coach unless he has an entire offseason to come up with a game plan. But also, like, that's football, right? Like, things go awry, right? Like, things are going to go awry every year.
He basically, what we have found out, unfortunately, aside from the game that Dobbs came in to replace Jaren Hall, and then the first half of the Saints game, unfortunately, what we have found is if he doesn't have the quarterback that he intended to have, he's going to struggle because he's not going to be flexible, which does not make him unique as far as coaches go. But I need to see more. I need to see a flexibility. And I don't care who your quarterback is in 2024. I need to see a screen game, and you need to be committed to the run. I mean, this is getting to be as crazy as Zimmer was the opposite way, where he wouldn't stop running the football. O'Connell, and look, I understand you don't want to be in 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7. But that being said, you have to run the ball. You can't just football is a game that the marriage of the run and the pass is what sets up defenses. And if you just sort of punt on one of those two, the defense's life becomes simpler. So, and the other thing I'd like to see too is I'd really like to see Justin Jefferson involved more consistently in the short pass game as well. It feels like they are just insistent on, well, if Jefferson's going to catch a pass, it's got to be 10 to 15 yards down the field at times. It's like, part of the screen game could run through him. And he's got it's not like he's just got great hands. The dude is an athlete. The dude can make plays. He can make people miss. So yeah, there's a lot of things. I don't want to make it sound like in any way we're calling for O'Connell's job, but I would like to see some maturation as far as acceptance and what he is willing to do adjustment wise. I think that's fair.
Let me ask you this, Judd, because I gave you the hot take like 3 weeks ago. The Vikings picked the wrong quarterback. Obviously, that's part of our hot take segment. It's a fun segment we do after every Vikings game. But do you think the Vikings are sitting pretty here if Joe Flacco had come in the same time he joined the Browns? Do you think the Vikings look any different if Joe Flacco was plugged in instead of Josh Dobbs before the trade deadline? Obviously, Flacco looks great, but do you think the results would be absolutely the same if he was wearing a Vikings jersey instead of a Browns jersey from, about 8 weeks ago?
No, because I think he would have, he's already got a bunch of picks there, and I think he would have more. Because again, I think Stefanski runs a very different scheme, and I think it is a little bit more friendly to the fact that Flacco, and if you go back, I mean, Joe Flacco was on his couch for a reason. Like, he bombed out in the last, and it's because he's old, that's fine. But I don't know that O'Connell would have put him in a position to succeed as much. I think he would have, again, asked Flacco to run what Cousins does. And at one time, I think Joe could have. I don't think he can now. So I'm not convinced it's the same, because I do think Stefanski probably has a system that fits Flacco better. But if you go and look at the picks, like, Flacco's thrown a ton there. So it's not like he's been perfect. So I'm not convinced of that. But I also, where I erred was I thought that Mullins had some talent. And I keep saying, well, he played pretty well except for a few My God, folks, what do you need to like? Okay, he did. Yeah, he threw for a bunch of yards, but one, did you watch the ball wobble? And second of all, those mistakes were killers. And Kevin O'Connell. Now, I would have liked to see Nick Mullins not drop back as much. Like that's the thing. But that being said, when you're dropping back and you're about to be sacked and you essentially just hand the ball to the opponent, that's not Kevin O'Connell. That's you're not good.
Mm-hmm. And look, 6 interceptions through 2 games, which Mullins had. And we saw enough where in both those games, he had 5 to 6 also just short circuit plays that absolutely kill an offense.
Those bothered me more. I think those bothered me way more because it's like you. So as Seifert pointed out in his piece, the fact that you had 2 quarterbacks, if you're O'Connell, the fact that you had Dobbs and Mullins each have 4 interception games is in an era where, that does, 4 picks in 1 game in 1 season is a ton, right? So you had 2 quarterbacks do that. That's an indication that you're asking them to do too much. But back to what you said, the short circuiting, that just means you're not good.
History Buff on the Purple Daily YouTube channel says, I still think Mullins gives our offense the best chance of winning, but the turnovers were out of control. So let's see what Hall can do. And then tag teaming this with Jeff's comment through the Score North feedback app. He says, in the 2 years, KOC has never committed to the running game, so why would he start now? So his point, even with a rookie quarterback, why would he necessarily? Now, I would argue with the rookie, I think he would start now. And the Packers defense is awful. And I'd like to think that you can give Ty Chandler, 15 carries or 15 to 20 touches even, because you can get him involved maybe in some screen plays or some passing game as well. But Jeff says, why would he commit to the run now?
It's a good point. It's a very good point. And look, you went out and signed last March, big tight end, run blocking extraordinaire, Josh Oliver, to help the run game. Like that was not a passing game thing. That was a guy who is dominant as far as being able to help block. And so that to me was a clear indication that they were trying to clean things up. But yeah, like my biggest things, O'Connell offensively, my biggest things are, let's find more ways to get Jefferson involved creatively as well. Let's get a screen game here, and let's establish the fact that you have to run. Like again, this is not Zimmer didn't pass enough, and he ran all the time. But O'Connell, what's O'Connell on Sunday? Speaking of like complimentary football and the entire team, what's O'Connell thinking when he is putting a defense that's down in cornerbacks, like your best, your veteran corner, Byron Murphy Jr.'s out, okay? You've got guys out. And every time you pass the ball, and let's say it falls incomplete, you are stopping the clock for the opponent, and you're putting your defense back out there quicker. How's that a favor? So I'm not saying you got to run 30 times, but I am saying at some point in time, don't you have to say, Brian Flores has done a great job. Like this defense has done a great job. They're really not that talented, but they've done a great job. I have to help them. Instead, you are just continually saying, let's throw caution to the wind and put them back out there. And that's what I don't understand. Like, am I missing something there? Do I not understand something? I've watched a lot of football. I've never coached it, but that's where I'm confused.
Another comment here from another Kevin who says, I think KOC, in my opinion, is stubborn and arrogant in his coaching. He has failed the Vikings numerous times. Yes, all football coaches are stubborn and arrogant. I think that's really no surprise for the most part. But I do think that play of that tush push failing against the Bengals where Flores is in the back of his ear saying, call timeout, and you basically see him waving him down and still staring at that play sheet. No, I'm going to commit to this. I think that was the first time I was like, oh no, yes, he is stubborn and arrogant because football coaches, that's them in their nature, but this is almost, that play, and it was just one of them, but that one gave me the first pause of, this guy is going to be set in his ways, probably no matter what.
In O'Connell's defense about that one, though, he rightfully so said Flores, they thought that the play wasn't being, for the first down, that the spot of the ball wasn't being looked at, and it was. And so Flores was saying call timeout to make sure that they spot this correctly. And then the official came to O'Connell and Flores and said, no, upstairs looked at this and the spot is correct. So he wasn't being as like he wasn't telling Flores to buzz off according to what we were told. But that being said, yeah, I mean, his play calling, and he has doubled down with the media in the last couple of weeks, and certainly about the Detroit game, about the fact that he wants his quarterbacks to do what he wants and doesn't really care if they can't. So there's a definite stubbornness. And I saw a comment saying you don't run the ball for the sake of running the ball because that just gives the team the ball back. No, what you do is you combine the run and pass, but you do run the ball at times to run clock. Like every time a Mullins pass falls incomplete, the clock stops, the opposing team gets more time. So you want to run. If you are basing your thought process on we are an offensive first team, you want the offense to complement the defense as much as possible. And when you're throwing picks or incompletions, you're basically putting more and more stress on your defense. And that's where O'Connell knows that. It's not breaking news to him, but I do think that that's where there's a problem of what you just said, which is stubbornness.
One more Kevin O'Connell comment. Say that 10 times fast here on Feedback Friday.
I just call him KO, KOC.
Zane says, hey guys, first off, love your content. You guys do a great job. Not sure if you've noticed this or not, but during the Vikings' next game, take a look at who the running back is on the third offensive drive. Every single game, KOC switches the running back on the third drive. Seems like KOC is very meticulous and plans everything out and never wants to deviate based on the flow of the game. Would love your thoughts on this. He did this last year, too, with when Cook was the starting running back.
It was Madison
he got in there that third time. But yeah, that's a trend that he's still adopted into 2023, too.
That doesn't bug me that much because if you have the starting back in for the first two series, then it does make some sense to try to mix the backup into the offense at that point. But when that was Chandler, it did, because I'm like, why isn't Chandler starting? So if it's Chandler first two series, Madison third, yes, that is something he does a lot. That doesn't bug me. I just want them to be willing to run more, and they have switched. I also and we talked about this for a month plus. I also thought, and I think we all did, that Chandler should get the majority of the carries. And certainly against Detroit, although there were only 11 carries, Chandler got the majority. I think Madison, coming off that high ankle sprain, only got one. And I think he's not going to be healthy for the rest of the season. So I would imagine the breakdown of carries is going to remain very much in Chandler's favor.
Speaking of featured backs and getting them involved early in the offense, I can tell you right now, the Vinster, if you start shaking a little Nutrisource bag, he is in open space, and good luck stopping him, because he's going to get to that little tree drawer. He's going to sit there proper like he does. Still in front of the Christmas tree. We still got the Christmas tree up, but he will, no matter what, want that Nutrisource treats. And I know Stella and you were watching Ryder as well last night. You had your hands full of two dogs.
Yep. But guess what? Both of those dogs, Stella and her friend, they love the Nutrisource meals. They also love the treats. Yep, you're exactly right. And there's Maya Mackey. Who knows where she is? I think she's at daycare. I think Phil dropped her off at daycare. But my guess is she is very pleased, Declan, because she probably has a bag at daycare filled with Nutrisource treats.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know where she, and we're never asked to watch Maya Mackey. We'll gladly watch Maya Mackey, right? I think we would. Not you? Maybe
she might be a little big for me. I like small dogs here. I don't have a big
small
house.
Dog, isn't she? I think Maya's smaller.
I like a small house. Okay, I like a small house. So yes, that is good for your puppy. Nutrisource Nutrisource pet foods among the places that you can buy it. Chuck and Don's is a perfect place to stop. And by the way, speaking of from transitioning from pet food to people food, perhaps you have eaten too much people food. Perhaps you are eating too much and you're saying, I've got to lose weight. Well, look at the sports dad right there, down 40 pounds. Thanks to my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers. I'm going to tell you, folks, this plan absolutely works. And here's the best part. They're going to help you keep the weight off. We have had numerous people, as Declan can attest, who have from the PD family joined this program and gotten notes to us saying, I've lost 80 pounds, in some cases 100 or more pounds. That's because this works. Join today and you're going to get your first 3 months for free. Go to LIVEA, Livea.com, or call them 855-GO-LIVEA, Livea.com. Also now offering breakthrough weight loss medication options as well, inside or outside the state, because the whole thing can be done virtually. Livea Weight Control Centers is going to help you get your weight and your life back on track.
All right, let's go back to the feedback here. Let's start with Matthew, who says, this Jaren Hall nonsense needs to stop. The season is on the line. No matter where you think this season is headed, you don't start a rookie who is clueless on reading NFL defenses at this stage. Please stop, quote, enjoy the season, unquote, a la Mike Tice. So the Jaren Hall propaganda that we have been trying to spew over the last 3 weeks or so, Matthew wants nothing to do with it. Says no.
It's working. He's going to start, Matthew. He's going to start. And do you really want to see Nick Mullins again? Look, I would far prefer to lose games and make some assessments. Like what is the purpose of playing Dobbs, who you benched now, 3 weeks ago, or Mullins? What's the purpose? You know who they are. Dobbs is going to be a free agent come March. Mullins, I looked this up yesterday, has an out in his contract. So he's probably gone. There is no purpose in playing them. At least with Hall, you might get blasted and he might suck, but you can make some, but you can make some decisions. And this comes from a guy who said Mullins should start. And then I saw him play. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was wrong. So I have no problem. And I think we agree on this, Dex. I have no problem with this change.
Not at all. Next comment here from Rob, who says, what is up with KJ Osborne? I'm hoping we see more consistency from him. Here's the thing about KJ Osborne. His 3 years, he's been, a fixture in this offense. His rookie year, he barely played, was just mostly a special teams guy. But then in 2021, was very regularly in the offense. Here's KJ Osborne's yards per game the last 3 seasons. 38.5, 38.2, 37.9. Receptions per game, 2.9, 3.5, 3.3. I'm not trying to poo-poo on Rob here. KJ Osborne is KJ Osborne. He's a solid, firmly, ceilingly, solid third wide receiver. There isn't necessarily more to his game. He's good for 40 to 50 catches, 500, 600 yards, but not a guy you can rely on, and not a guy who has, I don't think, this next burst ability or this glass ceiling he can break. He's probably going to get quote-unquote paid. I think even by paid, he's going to leave the Vikings. He's probably some other team will be enticed by him. But KJ Osborne, I don't think there's anything more to his game. And I don't think we necessarily need to see anything more to have the Vikings bring him back either.
Perfectly put. Yes, he is a solid contributor, and I think a lot of us, including myself, probably a year ago or so, overestimated him. But he is who he is.
Kirk Cousins comment here from Stu, who says, I think people will be surprised what Cousins signs for, and whoever signs him will not get a bargain. So I think a lot of us, I've been saying, he'll take, and the Achilles is playing a huge factor. That does play a factor. But with what Dak's probably going to get here, potentially on his next extension, who's in an MVP conversation, you saw what other quarterbacks have been getting. Man, I tend to agree with Stu, that I think Kirk Cousins is still going to will sign a very lucrative contract.
Absolutely. He is not look, there is nothing about his past and this is where I'm confused, because I keep seeing Vikings fans want to bring Kirk back. Okay, that's awesome. Yes, I don't disagree right now at all. But they also say if he does a contract the right way, if Kirk Cousins comes back, as far as I'm concerned, Danielle Hunter is probably gone. And Kirk Cousins, yes, he might take a little bit less, but a little bit less. Look, ladies and gentlemen, look at QB contracts. As Chip Scoggins, I think, broached this topic on Purple Access that we recorded on Thursday. Look at the Daniel Jones contract, okay, which is a stupid contract. But you really think Kirk Cousins is going to take less? Bite the bullet and be like, I really want to go back. I'll take less than Daniel Jones. He's a better quarterback with a torn Achilles, and he knows it. So That's my, I guess that's my question is I would take Kirk back too. And especially if O'Connell has designed his life around Kirk, which I'm a little bit surprised by, but right now that's neither here nor there. But my personal question is, what's the reality of the Kirk contract? And when Jefferson, who is going to be, and Jefferson is saying, as all the Kirk stands say, well, he wants Kirk. Okay, but he ain't going to take less because Kirk might come back. So Kirk gets paid, Jefferson gets paid, Darrisaw at some point soon gets paid. Something has to give here. I know the salary cap goes up, but something has to give. And my question becomes, tell me what that is then. Tell me what you're going to, because if Danielle Hunter and the production that he has had leaves, you're going to have to take probably a defensive end, or as it's called in a 3-4, outside linebacker who can rush in the first round, if not a cornerback, right? So because what I hear is, wouldn't it be great if they brought Kirk back for a couple of years and then they draft a quarterback in the first round? Okay, that's awesome. Who's going to play defense next year? So somebody needs to explain to me what's going to give here. What is going, who are you okay walking away if, Kirk does not say, yeah, I'll play for $12.50, which he's not going to say, nor should he.
Yeah, Nathan says first round quarterback no matter what next year.
Well, then this is not working.
It depends on how the board falls. Depends what they do with Kirk. And if you're going to re-sign, though, JJ, which you're hopefully going to do, and if maybe you're going to re-sign Danielle, which I don't think is going to happen, but regardless, JJ, Darrisaw are going to take up large chunks of your contract extensions, and they should with their salary cap issues. But having a rookie quarterback would be the only real way you could probably pay two of those guys, if not all three. Like, there's no other way, right? I mean, there's no other way you can probably manipulate the cap as much as they've done a really good job manipulating the cap.
Then you can't sign people.
Yeah, then you legitimately
like that's
can't
the thing
sign
too. So if you're going to try and sign Danielle, Kirk, and Jefferson, if Jefferson sets foot on the field without a contract, he's crazy. He's not going to. So he's going to be signed. Your ability to sign free agents is basically gone again. So that's my thing, is you got to tell me how this is going to work. It can't just be pie in the sky. And what on earth would make you believe that Kirk is going to come back at a extraordinary discount? Yes, he tore his Achilles. He's fully planning on coming back. And it's not going to be for a look-see. Hey, I'll play for a year and then we can sign a longer contract. So I'm so curious to see how this plays out and what the decisions are. And keep in mind too, if Kirk comes back with what this team is going to have, they are in no way going to say, well, on defense, we'll just sort of get by. And if we stink, we stink. This team tries to win every single season. They are going to try to come up with a plan to try to win.
You know what doesn't stink, Judd? That's our friend at Surly Brewing. Great. I was at my local liquor store late last night, had to pick up some. I usually go on Fridays, but I had some company coming over late yesterday, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to run to the liquor store. Great options. I saw Before I Die. I saw Todd Axeman. I saw, of course, The Furious. Saw the Tall Boy. I think I know maybe what liquor store our friend Chip Scoggins goes to, because I found the
in Woodbury,
the local Surly Tall Boys, and I was like, you know what?
Yep.
I bet I see a Chip Scoggins in here from time to time.
The weekend is here, Declan Goff, and there's nothing better than combining a weekend filled with sports, of course, with bowl games, the Pop-Tart Bowl, perhaps, with bowl games, with a Sunday filled with the Vikings and Red Zone. In fact, Sunday's great because it's going to go Red Zone and then primetime Vikings Packers. Surly is there to accompany you, and as Deck said, the Before I Die, you know what? The playoffs might become a distant memory if the Vikings lose on Sunday to the Packers. But Before I Die, well, it's always there for you, brewed by our friends at Surly Brewing. And you know what, too? If you want to get out of the house, if you want to go drink a Surly, let's say at the bar, well, then you want to go right there. Park Tavern, that's right. As you can see, eat, drink, bowl, and party, 2 bars. It's fantastic. Watch all the games. And on Sunday, if you're there watching the Vikings game, combine that with this, because to ring in the new year, $25 a person, The Park Tavern has Cosmic Bowling 9:30 to close as well. They open at 8 on Sunday. They close at 1. It's going to ring in the new year at Park Tavern, the official sports bar of the Sports Dad, located right in my neck of the woods here, St. Louis Park, Louisiana Avenue South. Check them out. And again, check out the Cosmic Bowling event on Sunday after the Vikings game.
Had some good pull tab luck at Park Tavern last week.
I heard you did. Congratulations.
Some show-related feedback here to wrap on Feedback Friday on Purple Daily. Matt said, "Where's this week's Write That Down?" So we were gonna do a Write That Down. Then
Good
Phil
question.
was out. Accountability sessions were in the mist, I guess you could say. So we didn't do a Purple Daily Write That Down. We did do a regular Write That Down. We'll return to full strength next week. So we'll have the accountability session. I just thought Phil was dogging me because somebody won the quarterback cesspool challenge and I didn't get my rightful parade yet. So I just gotta wait for the accountability session. I gotta wait for the graphics department to come up with it here.
Yeah, I got nothing to do with that. It got
What's
nothing
up
to do
with
with me. I did not try and stifle you there. And yes, back at full strength. Because I mean, we basically, like we said, how many shows? Now we have actually, I think, Dex, aside from Christmas Day, when we ran, I think it was the pie chart of blame for the Vikings lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We have actually produced shows on a daily basis, but graphics took the week off. Phil took the week off. Our accountability statisticians did as well. So, yep, we'll be back at full strength Monday and then for the rest of the year until Christmas week next week, at which point in time we'll probably forget that we didn't do the Write That Down.
Martin says, "Is Declan related to Jared Goff? He was wearing Lions colors earlier last week." No relation to Jared Goff. No, I get this every time. Been getting this for 5 to 6 years now. I know we kind of look alike. I guess we both have blonde hair. We both are highly paid. One of us is overrated. One of us is properly rated. I'll leave it at that. You can decide which one's overrated.
Phil's a big Jared fan.
He is a big Jared fan. Maybe he's a
Mackie
Goff guy.
Loves Jared Goff.
I got plenty more if he wants to be Goffs.
You know what? He's fine. He's fine. I watched him again Sunday. I don't dislike him a lot, but I don't love him either. He's fine.
Yeah. Bart says, "Judd seems more relaxed and fairly amused when he sits with Jesse and Ross on Before I Die. Clearly a different vibe." Do you feel you have a different vibe around your
That's the
friends,
goal of the
Jesse
show.
and Ross? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a very different vibe. It's a very different. I feel so the difference between and I'm actually glad I am flattered to hear that because that's the goal of that show. I feel like that show, I'm just sort of coming out of the bullpen and throwing some slop. On this show, it's all fastballs. It's all fastballs. Like this is because I consider this to be the Vikings show of record. So I'm honored that the person that he can tell, in fact, I forgot his name already.
Bart.
I'd like to apologize. Bart, I'm sorry. I'm bad with names. But yes, I definitely have a different role on that show as opposed to the flagship, as you can see on my hat, Purple Daily, brought to you by our friends at Quick Trip.
Finally, Drew says, "For the love of God and Christmas, Judd must, in all capitals, wear the jingle hat. He can't just dangle that in front of us and then we never see it again. Jingle Judd must make an appearance tomorrow for Christmas." This was going to the Christmas episode. Please, I need this.
Oh, you should have told me.
Hat.
It's in the other room. It's in the other room. That was my hat. That actually, I told Dawn because I knew that you guys were going to be wearing Santa Claus hats for the Christmas Eve event line. And I knew that. And so I told Dawn, get me an elf hat. So she got a package of 3, which of course showed up from, I don't know, Amazon, I'm guessing, at our doorstep with the jingle hat, elf hat. So that's where it came from. And if you had told me, I could have had it at the ready. Unfortunately, it's out by Stella as she safeguards it on the chair out there. So
Vinny is also obsessed with my Santa hat. I think it's the palm.
Does it jingle?
No, it doesn't jingle.
It's got a palm on it.
Palm.
Yes, it's got a palm.
He thinks it's his, and I'm like, well, I mean, I know what's mine is yours because that's how this works in this household. But like, this is
they
my
like to
Santa
rip.
hat.
He probably wants to rip it off, though.
Yeah,
he probably wants to rip the ball thing off the hat.
Yeah, if it was up to him, he would destroy every toy, which he mostly successfully eventually does. With
Stella sort of does that, but she's not big enough to. So she tries, but I guess the Vinster's big enough. He probably does some damage, especially if there's stuffing in the toy.
Oh, yeah. I can see that as well.
Stella gets the toys that have squeakers. She loves those, and of course I hate them. But then what she will inevitably do is chew through them and essentially destroy the squeaker. I'm not sure if the Vinster does that. Occasionally she'll take the squeaker out, which is bad because I don't want her to try and eat it.
Yeah, that'll be bad.
Yeah, so I'm not a big squeaker. I don't like the squeaker, especially if it's like then. And she's smart. So speaking of our friends from Nutrisource, Stella will get the squeaker toys at like 6:15 and start to squeak them. And I'm like, no. And she's like, Nutrisource. I'm like, no. And that's it. She wins.
All right, that'll do it for Feedback Friday here on Purple Daily. We'll have Purple Picks tomorrow. Actually, I got a text from Phil Mackey. He has his selection for Purple Picks. So I do have even Mackey's pick for Purple Picks.
Oh, tomorrow. He's still alive?
He is still alive. Going down.
Glad to hear that.
He
I was
going down
worried
that
about
water
him.
slide, maybe as he sends me his Purple Pick. So hit that subscribe button. Daily Vikings Entertainment. This is Purple Daily, and Purple Picks Saturday. Vikings Vent Line, of course, late Sunday night on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day.